Hey tubers, welcome back for another adventure. You are looking at the 1986 Honda TRX250. We've looked at this before, and last time we did, we determined that the compression was a little weak, that the electric starter was weak, and that the Kickstarter was weak. So I kind of put it aside and stepped away from it. I needed to move it away from its past location, so I kind of dragged it in here to give it one more look, and I discovered a few things. First of all, it still has the original Dunlop tires in the front, and it doesn't look like they have all that many miles on them. Other than that little dent right here, right? It really looks pretty straight and true. Right, still has the complete exhaust system on it. The handlebars aren't bent up. So I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, you know, I really don't quite want to write it off just yet. And to show you how lucky this machine was, I happened to be cruising eBay and I found a starter and gear set from a 1985 Honda ATC 250 SX. That's why it's painted black. It's the sportier version. Typically, these starter gears are somewhere around $100, and a brand new starter is somewhere around $50. So I found this for $100, and by the time I paid tax and got it delivered to the house, it was $110. So I figured I'd give this all-terrain vehicle one more shot. So I dragged it up here, and the first thing I did was check the oil, and the oil was low. So I put oil into it slowly, and none of it poured out the bottom. So that's a really, really good first sign, right? Nobody needs a Valdez on the ground. And, right, holding oil is important. So looking this all-terrain vehicle over, you could see the red death up here on the cylinder head. Remember, if you have that much gasket material hanging off the outside, you also have that much gasket material hanging off the inside, which means it could get loose, float around, and destroy your engine. By the way, I also noticed like the front wheels were never off of this. There was never a wrench on this. It still has the cap, still has the wiring. So there's a lot of good reasons to just put another few minutes into this to see if we can't get it started. And we got to go through the normal stuff. But one of the other things you also want to do, this thing hasn't been started in a real long time. So you want to pull the cap off. Right, put your drill to it. Oh, excuse me, I got the spark plug in it. All right, there you go. You want to just do that to make sure that you pump some oil around. Right, make sure that you're giving this thing the best possible chance of coming back to life and staying alive, right? Some of those bearing surfaces, if they don't have oil on them, they could get in trouble. I also recommend getting some oil down the spark plug hole. It's going to be a few minutes before we attempt to start this thing. So by getting some oil into that and turning it over, right, you make sure everything's greased up really well, right? Once again, we're trying to give this thing the best possibility of coming back to life. Working on the Kickstarter requires that the engine get torn apart, and I don't want to play that game for now. So we're just going to pull the side cover off and take a look at the gears. Sometimes they come off easily. Sometimes they really fight you. That wasn't too bad. Somebody also put some death in there. So here's the starter, and the difference between this guy and the 87 or the late 86s is the starter was actually longer, and there's a ball bearing out here that actually supports the starter, right? As time goes on, you develop a little weeble wobble and you tend to chew up the gears. And if you take a look at this, this is dead. These gears are getting harder and harder and harder to find. So should you have a good set, if your starter doesn't sound healthy, you want to get in there and figure out what the problem is. If not, you're going to waste the gears, and you may not, and I'm using the word not, be able to get replacements. And you know, I'm not seeing any shims in there, which is also not a good sign. Starter turns, it's stiff. Let's compare it to the other one. Yeah, this starter seems to turn over just a tad easier. Not crazy easier, but a little bit easier. What I'm doing here is checking out the one-way clutch, right? You should be able to turn this clockwise, no problem, right? That means you're turning against the freewheeling side of the one-way clutch, and the other way it will not turn, which is good. So that's positive. So far I need to replace this gear. I'm also going to put a new starter on it, because the starter is what drives this gear. And let's try not to wreck another one. Replacing the starter, easy enough, right? Take the bolt off the wire. Try not to lose it. Take these two bolts out, that guy and that guy. Yeah, I have bionic hands. I didn't pre-loosen any of this stuff. Write that down somewhere. Some of you guys listen to what I say and you tell me the words back, and that cracks me up. One person listened to what I said when I was trying to get that wrist pin area loose from the obviously I didn't loosen this. I'm gonna have to tap that back. Anyway, quoted back to me that you know, if you have to use a grinder to take something apart, you're working with ugly. I mean, that's not only is it a true saying, but when it was quoted back to me, that had me laughing. Okay, here's what the gears look like on the starter. Not very good. The starter wasn't quite slipping on this yet, but boy, it didn't sound very healthy. Anyway, I'm going to put the new gears in, and we'll give it another shot. See if it sounds better. I like to put the starter in place, bolt it down, make sure it's good. Get the starter gear in place and all. Make sure it's all settled, right? Make sure it's tight before I put the cover on. When I took it apart, this piece was stuck kind of in the cover. I wanted to make sure I got that out and freed it up. Now that that's all in there, remember, I'm always telling you guys, don't be afraid of getting some oil in there. Oil doesn't hurt. Extra gasket material hurts, but oil does not hurt. Installing the starter, not difficult. Those two back in, cover on, make sure it seats properly, make sure the gears are meshed properly. Put that on, right. Ground action there. That's off. Let's see how she sounds. It doesn't sound great, does it? Let's see what kind of compression we get out of this. That doesn't sound great. There might be something with the clutch or something else. The rest of the gears, I only did the top gears. The other gears looked okay, so I just kept them in there. Anyway, let's see what the compression comes in at and move forward from there. Here we are, all ready to go. 120. She'll start and she'll run. Let's smash a carburetor onto this and go for it. The last engine we attempted to bring back to life was the one where I did a piston transplant, and I really didn't want to use starting fluid on that. Right, it had enough problems up in the head area without putting any extra bang in. So I am going to use starting fluid. I don't know if you guys have noticed, I've been shopping about and it appears as if Walmart is having a little bit of a starting fluid shortage. I've hit a couple of them and they didn't have any. Anyway, so the jump pack is on, the CDI box is on. That particular carburetor is really sweet. It seems to start almost anything, so I've been kind of hopping it around from bike to bike. It was on the last one we cold started. So let's see what it does. I should make sure it's in neutral, right? Hopefully that's in neutral. I am going to tap it into gear. I have that much gas plus the ball, and hopefully it'll go into gear. This will turn, and that'll tell me I not only have a good engine, but I have most of a good rear axle. Okay, wish me luck. You can see a little of the exhaust there for smoke purposes. I think you can see everything important here. Choke on. Ignition on. I know this is cheating, but I'm going to cheat. Starting fluid. Just a hoot'll do ya. That looks like all of it. God, that starter sounds like heck. First try fail. I'm going to charge up my jump pack a little bit and see if that helps. We're going to give it another try. Wish me luck. CDI box on. Just give it a little more starting fluid. You see what I see, right? I don't think this engine's savable. It's a great parts engine, and I paid the right price for parts and so forth. I'm really glad I got it started, but now I know it. The shifter seems to be doing a whole lot of nothing. It doesn't feel like it's clicking into gear, so I don't know if they got the clutch misadjusted or what the story on with that is. It's got a couple of bad sounds to it, more than the valves, right? Somebody's already been in there fooling around with it. This is one excellent parts all-terrain vehicle, but it doesn't look like this engine has a destiny of being transplanted whole to anything. So there we are. I'm glad I got it running. Guess that's what Dr. Frankenstein likes to do, right? He likes to sew things together and bring them back to life. But this doesn't look like a healthy one. By the way, it was smoking out the breather as well as smoking out the exhaust, which means it was blowing right by the rings, right? Could be a bad head gasket, but probably blowing by the rings. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Old Smokey. I need you all to keep your feet down, your heads up, and I want you all to get out and enjoy each and every day. Bye now.